There was a street in your town where everybody went, not because they had to, because that is where life happened. The drugstore was on the corner, the barber was 3 doors down, the five and dime was across the street, and if you stood on the sidewalk long enough, someone you knew would walk by. Your mother bought your shoes there, your father got his hair cut there, you spent your allowance on candy that came out of a glass jar, scooped by a woman who called you sweetheart and knew your grandmother by name. It was not a shopping district, it was the center of your entire world, and now most of them are gone. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what town you grew up in and whether your main street is still standing. To understand what happened, you have to understand what Main Street actually was. Not just a road with stores on it. It was a complete ecosystem. Every small town in America had one, and they all looked remarkably similar. There was the drugstore with its soda fountain, marble counter, and swivel stools. The pharmacist mixed your medicine in the back and your cherry phosphate up front. Kids sat at that counter after school. Old men sat there in the morning with coffee. It was the living room of the entire town, and the pharmacist knew every family within 10 miles by name. Next door or across the street was the five and dime, Woolworths, Ben Franklin, Kresge's, W.T. Grant. These stores sold everything. Thread, toys, dishes, seeds, greeting cards, socks, candy by the pound. Nothing cost much. You could walk in with 50 cents and feel rich for an hour. The floors creaked, the aisles were narrow, everything was out in the open, on counters you could touch. Before Woolworth came along, most stores kept merchandise behind the counter. You had to ask a clerk to show you something. Woolworth changed that. He put it all within reach. Fixed prices, no haggling, just pick it up and bring it to the register. That was revolutionary once. And at the back, there was always a lunch counter. Not fancy, just stools and a grill and a woman in an apron who made your grilled cheese the same way every single time. The smell of those lunch counters, hamburgers and coffee and something warm you could not quite name, that smell was Main Street. Then there was the hardware store, locally owned. The man behind the counter did not just sell you nails, he asked what you were building. He had been selling nails in that same spot for 30 years and his father had sold them before that. You did not grab something off a shelf and scan it yourself, you told him what you needed and he walked you to it. The barbershop. 2 chairs, maybe 3, a striped pole out front that actually turned, magazines on a wooden table, the sound of scissors and men talking about baseball and weather and the new family that moved in on Oak Street. Your father took you there for your first haircut. And when you were old enough, you went yourself. The movie theater with the big marquee, the dress shop, the shoe store where they measured your foot with that metal sliding device, the bakery, the bank where the teller recognized you from church, the insurance office, the newspaper office, and on the corner, maybe a diner with a neon sign that buzzed when it rained. That was Main Street. Not one store, all of them together, side by side, held together by sidewalks and awnings, and the simple fact that this was where people went every day, for everything. By the 1940s and the 1950s, this was the peak. Main Street was the heartbeat of American life. It was not just commerce, it was community. On Friday nights, shops stayed open late. Families walked downtown together. You ran into your neighbor outside the five and dime. Your kid begged for penny candy while you picked up thread and a birthday card. The barber waved from inside. The druggist asked about your mother's hip. Nobody was in a hurry because there was nowhere else to go. Woolworths alone had more than 2,000 locations across the country. By the 1940s, they were the nation's largest food service retailer, with nearly 1,000 lunch counters nationwide. Before the first McDonald's ever opened, Woolworths was already feeding America from a stool on Main Street, not a drive-through on a highway. In 1913, Woolworth built his headquarters in New York City. At the time, it was the tallest building in the world. That shows how much money America spent at the five and dime. And it was not just Woolworths. At their peak, there were over 2,500 Ben Franklin stores and over 1,000 WT grants. Every main street in the country had at least one. Then, one by one, they all disappeared. Woolworths closed its last 400 stores in 1997. That date matters. It is the symbolic death certificate of Main Street retail. Here is something most people do not think about. The drugstore soda fountain was not just a place to get a milkshake. It is where teenager culture was born. Before the 1950s, the idea of a teenager barely existed. You were a child, then you were an adult. The soda fountain changed that. It gave young people a place that was theirs. Marble counters, swivel stools, a jukebox in the corner. First dates happened there. Friendships formed there. If you picture the 1950s at all, you are probably picturing kids gathered around a soda fountain. That image did not come from nowhere. It came from Main Street. Then in 1956, two things happened in the same year that would begin to kill all of it. First, President Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act, 41,000 miles of interstate highways. It was the biggest public works project in the nation's history. The federal government paid 90% of the cost. The idea was national defense and economic growth. The result was something no one fully anticipated. The new highways did not go through small towns. They went around them. Route 66, literally called America's Main Street, was bypassed town by town. In Williams, Arizona, people were so desperate to save their stretch of Route 66 that they shot at the bulldozers building the interstate. It did not matter. The highway went through anyway. Route 66 was officially decommissioned in 1985. John Steinbeck saw it coming. In 1962, driving across the country, he wrote, "When we get these throughways across the whole country, as we will and must, it will be possible to drive from New York to California without seeing a single thing." He was right. The highways were wonderful for moving goods, and they were death for small towns. Traffic that used to flow through Main Street now roared past on the interstate. The motels, the gas stations, the restaurants that had survived on through traffic withered within a decade. New businesses sprouted at highway exits instead. McDonald's, Holiday Inn, Howard Johnson's, corporate chains that did not need a relationship with the town. They just needed an off-ramp. The second thing that happened in 1956 was the opening of Southdale Center in Edina, Minnesota. It was the first modern enclosed shopping mall. It was designed by an Austrian architect named Victor Gruen, who ironically hated American sprawl. His idea was to create a suburban town square, climate-controlled, with 2 levels and department store anchors on each end. A garden court sat in the middle with sculptures and a cafe. It was supposed to be a better version of downtown. Instead, it replaced downtown. Over the next 20 years, more than 1,200 shopping malls were built across America. They pulled the department stores out of Main Street and relocated them to the suburbs. They had centralized management and a coordinated mix of stores that no downtown could match. Between 1954 and 1977, the total retail market share of American city centers dropped by 77%. Some downtowns lost 90% of their business. The man who studied this called the effect devastating. Most downtowns struggled for 25 to 30 years. Some towns tried to fight back. They added parking. They coordinated promotions. Some even remodeled entire blocks to look more like the malls that were killing them. It did not work. In some cases, it made things worse. By the 1980s, malls had won. They colonized pop culture. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, mall madness. Tiffany launched her music career with a mall tour. Where else would you go in suburban America in 1989? The mall was Main Street now, except it was not. It was a private space owned by a corporation designed to extract money, not build community. But it had air conditioning and parking, and that was enough. Then came Walmart. And here the story gets personal. In 1945, a young man named Sam Walton bought a Ben Franklin 5 and Dime franchise in Newport, Arkansas. It was a small store on a small main street. He tripled the profits in 3 years. Then his landlord refused to renew the lease and gave the location to his own son. Walton moved to Bentonville, Arkansas. The population was 3,000. He bought a variety store on the town square. It was a 5 and dime right next to a barbershop. He renamed it Walton's 5 and Dime. By the early 1960s, he owned 16 stores in small towns across Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas. Then he asked his supplier, Ben Franklin, to cut their margins in half so he could sell cheaper. They said no, so he started his own chain. On July 2, 1962, the first Walmart Discount City opened in Rogers, Arkansas. His idea was simple: build large stores in small towns and sell everything at the lowest possible price. Think about what that means. Sam Walton looked at Main Street. He saw the drugstore, the hardware store, the 5 and dime, the shoe store, the toy store, the grocery. He took every single one of those businesses, put them under one roof, moved that roof to the edge of town next to the highway, and undercut every price on every shelf. One study found that a single big box store opening caused as many as 14 local stores to close. In Iowa, towns lost 47% of their retail sales within a decade of a Walmart opening. And here's the part that should make you angry. In some towns, after Walmart killed every local business on Main Street, Walmart itself closed and left. 154 stores shuttered in 2016 alone, many of them in small rural towns that had nothing left. In Winsboro, South Carolina, the town had 3 grocery stores when Walmart arrived in 1998. By the time Walmart left, only 1 remained. One woman in Kimball, West Virginia put it simply, "It makes everyone so downhearted they do not know what to do." Sam Walton's original store in Bentonville is now the Walmart Museum. The very first exhibit when you walk in is the battered front door of his old Ben Franklin 5 and dime. The store that sat on Main Street next to the barbershop, the kind of store his company erased from the American landscape. He did not hate Main Street. That might be the worst part. He loved it. He grew up in it. He learned everything he knew from it. And then he built something that made it impossible for Main Street to survive. After Walmart came Amazon, founded in 1994. Whatever small retailers had managed to hold on through the highways, the malls, and the big box stores, Amazon finished them off from a warehouse you will never see, delivering to a doorstep you will never leave. But there's one Main Street that survived, sort of. In 1955, the same year Eisenhower was planning the highways that would bypass every small town in America, Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California, and every single guest who walked through those gates entered the park through one place: Main Street, USA. Walt Disney designed it that way on purpose. You could not get to any ride, any attraction, any part of the park without first walking down Main Street. Walt Disney grew up in Marceline, Missouri, a town of about 2,000 people. He lived there from age 4 to 9 and called it the most important time of his life. In 1938, he wrote to the local newspaper, "More things of importance happened to me in Marceline than have happened since or are likely to in the future." He loved that town so much that when his parents were offered a trip anywhere in the world for their 50th wedding anniversary, they chose Marceline. Most of his memories came from there. Main Street, USA at Disneyland was inspired by Walt's memories of Marceline. The ice cream parlor with marble-top tables, the penny arcades, the barbershop, the candy store, which Disney named Marceline's Confectionery. Even the hotel facade says Hotel Marceline. There is a mannequin working the box office at the Main Street Cinema. Her name tag reads Tilly Marceline, Missouri. Walt placed his own personal apartment above the firehouse on Main Street. A lamp has been kept burning in the front window ever since he died. He built Main Street USA because he could see the real ones disappearing. He wanted to preserve the feeling, the way the buildings looked, the way the street felt, the way it made you feel like you belonged somewhere. Today, more than 20 million people walk through Disney's Main Street USA every year. 20 million people come to that single stretch of street. The real Marceline, Missouri has a population of about 2,500. Many local businesses have closed. Visitors describe the town as quiet, feeling almost abandoned. The real town feels smaller now. The fake Main Street survived, the real one didn't. A scholar once wrote about why Disney built it. To make a model of an ideal past was to reject an imperfect present. Walt Disney knew Main Street was dying. He couldn't save it. So he built a copy and charged admission. What vanished wasn't the stores. You can still buy hardware and candy and shoes and medicine. You can buy all of it faster and cheaper than your parents ever could. What vanished was the street itself, the place where all those stores stood side by side, owned by people who lived above them or around the corner from them, where the pharmacist knew your allergies and the barber knew your father and the woman at the five and dime put aside the toy she knew your kid wanted for Christmas. What vanished was the walk. The Friday night walk down the sidewalk where you saw everyone you knew and no one was in a hurry. Where the marquee was lit and the barbershop pole was turning and the smell of the bakery hit you before you even turned the corner. We replaced it with a highway that goes around the town, a mall that's now dying too, a Walmart on the edge of town that might close next year, and a cardboard box on your doorstep from a company named after a rainforest. Each replacement was cheaper, each one was more convenient, and each one was less human than the one before it. The highway bypassed you, the mall pulled your stores away, Walmart consolidated them into a warehouse with fluorescent lights where nobody knows your name, and Amazon made it so you never have to leave your house at all. Progress, they call it. And maybe it is, but progress doesn't ask what you lose along the way, it just keeps moving. If your town still has its main street, you are lucky. If it does not, you already know what I'm talking about. Was there a drugstore with a soda fountain where you grew up? A five and dime where you spent your allowance? A barber who cut your hair for 30 years? I would like to hear about it. Tell me in the comments what your main street looked like and what is there now. And if this one stayed with you, share it with someone who remembers.